Today we're looking at Reveal Math, Grade 2, Unit 9, Lesson 6, adjusting addends to add 3-digit numbers. My usual disclaimer, I don't work for Reveal Math or for the school district. I'm a math content coach, consultant, and tutor, and I have a daughter in 2nd grade using Reveal Math. These videos are intended for parents and caregivers to help you understand how your kids are learning math. Now this might look similar to what we saw in Unit 6, which was about subtracting numbers, where we adjusted the subtrahends or adjusted the two numbers being subtracted. But there's a difference here when we're adding numbers that is actually really important. So I'm going to move this up to the corner. Also, I have to say my mom was here the other day watching my daughter, and she was looking at the homework and was like, I have no idea how to do this. And she's a very smart, well-educated woman, and she could not figure this out. So don't feel bad if this looks like a foreign language to you. Okay, so I made up a new problem, 228 plus 453. Now, the key here is to have your students think flexibly. They can adjust either number. What they want to look at is just like which number, is either of these numbers close to another number, close to a friendlier number or a 10 that would make this problem a little bit easier to do. So they're actually both close to a 10. I did that on purpose so we can work with it both ways. So let's think about adjusting the 228 first. Your kids might say, oh, well, that's pretty close to 230. So, all right, let's turn that into 230 by adding 2 to it. And Reveal Math puts this in a nice little box. So our new number is 230. Now, if we've adjusted 228 up by 2, we have to adjust the other number, the other addend, down by 2 to make sure that we're adding the same amount here. So this is actually called compensation. We're compensating for changing one number by changing the other one in the opposite direction. So 453 minus 2 is 451. And now this is my new math problem. Now this is still a problem that they are learning how to solve during this unit. So they could solve this on the number line. They could do partial sums, which is, it's actually really one of my favorite strategies, as I think I mentioned in that video. So I'm adding up the different place values here. So 200 plus 400 is 600. 30 plus 50, so those are my tens, is 80. And 0 ones plus 1 is 1. And now I add up these three parts of the sum. That's why it's called partial sums. And I get 681. Now let's look at compensating a different way here. So let's say your student looks at these two numbers and says, well, 453 is pretty close to 450. Let's adjust that one instead of the 228. So sure, let's start with that one. So to get that to 450, we need to adjust it down by 3. So subtracting 3, which gets us to 450. So that's our new addend. And then if we adjusted that one down by 3, we need to adjust the other one up by 3 to compensate for it, which gets us to 231, a little bit harder because we have to cross a 10 there. I didn't line these up here, but you can see our new problem is 231 plus 450. And again, we can solve that in a variety of ways. I'll do a quick number line here. I'm going to start with the bigger number. As I mentioned in the last video, teachers often suggest to their students that they do. And then I'm going to add 100 and another 100. So that's my 200. So that gets me to 650. And apologies, I'm a bit congested this week. And then I still have, so this is what I'm adding here, the 231. I still have 30 to add. That gets me to 680. And then I still have 1. 681. So we got the same answer. That should tell me that I did it correctly because I did it 2 different ways and got the same answer. Now here's the key difference from what students learned when they were subtracting in Unit 6. Let's say I have a totally different problem, 83 minus 59. Now what students learned in Unit 6 is that they can, again, adjust either one of these numbers, so either subtrahend here. Let's say the 59, it's pretty close to 60, so I want to make that a friendlier number. I'm going to adjust it up by 1, which gets me to 60. Now, when I adjust that number up by 1, I have to do the same thing to the other number. Oops, okay, there we go. So I'm also going to add 1 over here. Now, notice this is not the same thing that we did just now with the addition. So now my new problem is 84 minus 60, which is a whole lot easier. 24, a whole lot easier to figure out than 83 minus 59. Let's look on the number line at why this works. All right, if I start with 83 and I am subtracting 59, I'm going to put the 24, what we end up with here, just so you can see this. So this distance, this distance is 59. So if instead of starting at 83, I started 84 here, notice if I want to get back to that same answer, I'm now subtracting one more than I was before. So I'm subtracting 60 instead of 59. So that's why when we subtract, we actually adjust both numbers the same way. We add 1 to both numbers, we subtract 1 from both numbers, we could add 3 to both numbers, subtract 3 from both numbers, etc. But we're doing the same thing to both of them when we subtract. Okay, so let's look now at our 3-digit addition problem. By the way, this model can also represent subtraction, so if you're feeling a little bit confused right now or your mind is being blown, that is totally normal. They're inverse operations, and so this model should be able to represent everything. So let's look at what we did a minute ago, which was we adjusted the 453 down by 3, so we had 450. So in this model, if I start at 450 over here, and then if I adjust the 228 down by 3 again, which I'm saying this is not what you should do, but this is what the subtraction model had us doing. If I adjusted 228 down by 3, I have 225. I start at 450 and I add 225. I'm going to get to something less than what I had before, so less than the 681, which we know should be our sum. By adjusting both numbers down or both numbers up in an addition problem, we're actually ending up with a different value. So this is why with addition, we don't do that. We adjust the opposite way from however we've adjusted the first number. So if I adjust 453 down by 3, 228 up by 3, that compensates for that little 3 that I had removed from the 453. So there we go, a little bit long-winded, but I think this is something that can be confusing for students because they learned one thing with subtraction and now they're being told to do something different with addition. But I wanted you to get an idea of why this works, and perhaps you could have your students also experiment with a number line and see why it works. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this, please subscribe to my channel, leave a comment with any other content or grade level you'd like explained. And if you're interested in reading my thoughts on math education, check out my Substack, Make Math Make Sense, on the Substack platform.